All right, January 2016. Last time I had like a full build that was released through test flight and had like a platform that someone could play, which is awesome because this month is the first time of like full iteration on a platform, not inventing things from the ground, not like just writing code that has no UI, like just trying to build. So a lot got done. In fact, what I've done is every 2 weeks a pull request and then a release at the end of the 2 weeks. And then in that release, I document exactly what happened. So this will be a little different, and then I'm just going to run down a list of features that have been completed. To start with, early on, I did a brand new scene manager. I made it a project public on my GitHub that just handles SpriteKit scene management. You can register scenes, the assets that are with them. It handles preloading. You can do scene groups, so if two scenes share the same assets, it would load scene 2 in the background, to make transitioning easier. It does smart caching so that, scenes, like the UI assets would be kept in memory throughout the whole game. It does debug logging to print when it thinks there's a memory leak or when a scene was not released from memory. So all these things are pretty huge. Loading time's much better, and then now I can focus on what the actual scene transition will be, but that's down the road. So we got that. Other things, we have ranged units. They used to, once you attacked, they would attack forever. Now if the target walks out of range, they stop attacking. We have spell casting, which is just a new type of ability where it's an instant ability combined with a ranged ability that has a target, which the code didn't support before. So a big theme of what I'm going to talk about will be building out this ability system. We have moving all the assets to the XC assets portion of Xcode, which is all that matters is that paves the way for incremental loading, which is where you might download just the first level of a game, and then behind the scenes it'll download more, which makes that initial download quicker, required for the Apple TV and things like that down the road. We have resistance modifiers work so that the Blue Knights have a 25% resistance to ranged, which means they can actually beat them one-on-one. Before, they used to always get destroyed while approaching. So just the concept of resistance combined with the abilities and the modifiers all works. We have NS user defaults works, just code to learn how to play with it. So the sound and volume is now saved in that area. So when you reopen the app, it'll remember your sound and volume preferences. We have, I'll skip it. I'll come back to that. Sorry. A bunch of bugs with during the cutscenes, things being disabled, things going off screen, camera unlocking. And this was from the release I did last month. I found these bugs. So now everything is fixed and less crashes in theory. We'll see after a few weeks. And then that was the first 2 weeks of builds. The second 2 weeks is we have a few things. I'm trying to think about the best way to talk about it. It's building off the action bar and the stats. So one thing is unit stats are now available. I mentioned that the ranged has a 25 resistance to the Blue Knights have a 25 resistance to ranged. If you long press, you can see that window, and you can also access that same window from the camp screen. Right now, this is kind of just a debugging window, and it ensures that my abilities and modifiers are just being able to visually see that they're working goes a long way to to making sure, being confident in my code. Reading through logs is the backup to that. But anyway, that's a start. And it allows us to brainstorm things that maybe in the actual game, how do you compare units? Is it that's a whole separate topic. Anyway, so that's there, live updating. And then mentioning the spell casting, look at the haste spell here. so it speeds up the walking speed of the unit. And then also notice it's under the general on the left side, on the general's action bar. So this is key. So now the action bar has two, a left side and a right side, independent of each other. If the right side is cooling down or locked, it doesn't affect the left, and so on. So that works, and that was quite a refactor to break it out. And also the left side, that general, it's treated like any other squad, just invisible. It uses the same save file, the same ability, the structure of squads. It's just invisible, and it's the general of the army. So that works. Other abilities that have been added are charge, which is a new ability type where you have to be in an engaging state and within a certain range of your target, and it allows you to charge. And then flee, which going to come back to that because that's a big one, but here it is in action. You also have, you've probably seen the numbers coming above the shields, +5 strength, whatever. That's just brainstorming ways to see what's happening at a glance. We'll see where it goes from here. And then after battle, experience and rewards has gotten a pretty thorough second iteration. It's definitely not the final, but by introducing a basic economy, I can experiment with what's going to make the game fun. So that when you beat a level, you get food, you get gold, and you get experience. Food is used to recruit troops and increase your max army size. Gold is used to heal troops, and you'll see some troops can be critically wounded, which will be a random number based on what level you are. Right now it's 50% of troops hurt in battle are critically wounded and they're gone. You have to pay gold to bring them back. And you do that through the camp scene. And then I had to go through all of the loading code of loading of troops and redisplaying them and make sure they respect that new count with critical wounds considered. Whereas before it was just hard coded, throw a troop of 6 units or 9 units on there. And then also the experience bars handle leveling up. So if you get more experience to level it up, it'll start from the beginning and start filling up the next level. The experience bar is a reusable little widget that works in the camp scene too, so that whatever final design we settle on, that will work. And then another big change is the action bar uses circular icons now. Before it used they had cutouts to make it look like it was notched in there. The benefits of the circular icons is I can do quick iteration with free public icons. This isn't the final UI, but that same circle will be on the shield when you're attacking a unit, or the thing that pops above your head indicating an ability was cast on a unit. It'll also be the same thing when you in the upgrade screen when you choose abilities to upgrade, and so on. So it's just thinking how flexible the UI needs to be and able to iterate on that. And then what else? Flee, I think, is the last thing I didn't talk about. Just some low-hanging iPhone bugs, also making sure some widths and menus, work properly. Keep iPhone up to date with the iPad. Okay, Flee. Let's talk about Flee real quick. It shows, it's neat to spend time on because it shows just how complex one feature can be. So Flee should work when you're in combat with another unit. It should appear. I had to introduce a new attribute to each unit called morale. And then when morale is 0, it will guarantee flee. And then morale above 0, it'll always do it. So any change in morale will do a random check, should I flee? If it's 50, you'd have a 50% chance of fleeing, and so on. Once it decides you should flee, there's a new state in the state machine called fleeing that will disengage any unit you're in, notify them that you're not fighting anymore. It'll determine where to flee to, so I had to do hotspots around the map. It'll calculate to behind the enemy attacking you or the closest hotspot to flee to. When you get off the map, the unit dies. But every 10 seconds, it does a chance to regroup. So the way you would use flee is if you're going to lose the fight, you can flee to get out of the fight, because the enemy attacking you will ignore you. And then you risk running off the map and losing that unit, or recovering, which could later heal the unit. And then the artificial intelligence had to be updated to just ignore fleeing units. And there's also just a new state of units in general called disabled. So if a unit was frozen or rooted, they would there's going to be variations that they would be disabled. So the action bar will lock all the icons. The AI, in some cases, like frozen, would still attack, and others, like flee, it would not attack. The other thing is pursuit. If the enemy attacking you has no other people attacking it, it will pursue for 5 seconds, and it gets +5 strength while pursuing. And that's different because you click flee on one unit, but another unit gets +5 strength. So now my abilities can target 2 units. It's actually each modifier targets a unit now instead of each ability targeting a unit. And then, yeah, it's still not done because there's just edge cases like where the leader dies when fleeing, where people don't act appropriately, or it doesn't look natural. Like you can see I put a bit of a wander on the fleeing unit, but there's still work to do. So all of that, just all the considerations and because it's real time and there's so many factors, it just shows like just how complex you have to think through some things that look like you just click a button and something happens. But anyway, so all of this is done. I wish I could find out. Off the top of my head, the guess is probably 7,000 lines of code in the month of January, which doesn't mean anything, but it shows I'm working. So super productive to have this platform that I can iterate on. I'm quickly iterating before the kid comes any week now, and then I'll save cleanup and bug fixing for the brief moments I'm gonna have, because I'm gonna slow down significantly probably for the month of March. So for now, it's just iterate super quickly. Don't worry too much about bugs, just to get a proof of concept together, and then that I could hopefully sometime soon bring other people on to start testing and getting the builds and getting their ideas. So that's it for this update. I will see you in a month.